Mazen's Corner. We're gonna find out what she's making for her lunch tomorrow.
I am making egg white scramble with bell pepper, red onion, some mushrooms, spinach, and this really good cheese that I got from Costco that we pretty much crushed the whole brick of. So that's what's gonna go in the scramble, and then to go with that, I'm gonna do some potatoes that I'm gonna cut into probably quarters and then roast in the oven. My first step is the potatoes. I'm going to cut them into smaller pieces. I'm thinking slices now. I said quarters earlier, but I think slices would be cool. I've never done that for breakfast potatoes before. And then I'm gonna put some seasonings in this bowl, and with some oil and some Parmesan cheese, and then I'm gonna throw them in the oven. It's at 450. They're probably gonna take 20-25 minutes, depending on how thin I cut them. And then I'm gonna start on the egg whites. Why are there potatoes? So I'm gonna cut some garlic. My favorite garlic hack is to kind of chop it a little rough to start with. One of my coworkers taught me this actually. So you chop it probably like that, and then you take some olive oil. It will come out. It's too cool. Just a little bit. And a little kosher salt or coarse salt. You're gonna put salt in it anyway, so it's fine. And then you kind of smash it down, and this helps to keep it from going away, flying off the cutting board. And then you can chop it quickly. So I'm gonna make some oil or dressing for the potatoes before I roast them. I'm gonna use some olive oil. I already put the garlic on the potatoes. I have this hot thyme that my mother bought me. It's really good. It's like you could add thyme and chili peppers and like some dried garlic instead of this. And I have cracked black pepper. And then I'm gonna put some ghee in. It won't melt in this, but I'll put it in the oven and then toss it within like 2 or 3 minutes. Once it's melted, just give it another spin and then it'll be good. I want them to be spicy, so I'm gonna add some Cholula too. So I'm going to add some green bell pepper and some red onion to the potatoes, kind of to make them like home-style breakfast potatoes. And because I don't need all of this for the eggs I'm making. I like to slice them really thin. I'm saving the other half for the eggs over here because I want to cut it a different shape. Okay. So onions always make me cry a little bit, but I'm going to toss this together. And you're probably thinking, oh, you forgot the salt. I'm gonna add that after I put these on there because I wanna make sure I just get a good amount for the amount of potatoes I'm making. And I'm also gonna add some Parmesan cheese. I wanna make sure all the potatoes get oil on them. The last 3 things I'm gonna add are some Parmesan cheese, some salt for the potatoes, and then some paprika. I forgot this ingredient earlier, but it helps it to kind of look more brown when you cook in the oven. So I'm just gonna sprinkle it on top. This is just plain paprika. You can use smoked paprika if you like a really smoky flavor, but it's too much for me sometimes. The cheese kind of helps it to brown in the oven too. It'll kind of burn onto the bottom of the sheet tray. And it also tastes good. I'm going to use the same bowl that I had the potato stuff in, and I'm gonna finish cutting this. I'm gonna dice this, and I'm gonna dice the rest of the bell pepper, the other halves. And then I'm gonna put some diced mushrooms in there, maybe some of that garlic, and get that going in the pan for the eggs. I like to use that onion hack of where you chop one side of it less than the other side so that you can hold it without them slipping, but I'm too lazy for that because I don't want to cut the butt end of it. So I just struggle through it. That's all right. So I have garlic and bell peppers and onions in here. I'm gonna give it a stir just to get that little bit of oil that was still in here from the potatoes all over them, and then I'm gonna put them in the pan on high heat. I'm gonna start these before I add the mushrooms, because the mushrooms I like to add after these are already a little cooked because they don't take as much time. And they produce a lot of moisture, so if you put them in first with this is gonna get really wet and these aren't gonna get any like char marks on them from the pan. And I like just a little bit of oil for these because they do cook faster if there's less oil. Now it's time to cut the mushrooms. I like to dice them small. So the peppers are getting a little bit of char on them on the backside. I haven't turned them yet since I put them in. It was probably like 2-3 minutes ago. And then I'm gonna spray a little more olive oil over the top of them, and then I'm gonna flip them around. Just enough to kind of get them coated so they'll fry a little better. These in before the other stuff in the pan burns. I like my onions and peppers really toasty. If you don't like them like that, don't do this. Just cook them a little less. So once I add these, I'm not gonna add any more oil because the mushrooms are going to kind of wet out. All the liquid will come out of them, and then we'll stir it again and add more oil at that point if it needs it, if it dries out too much. The next thing I'm gonna do is whip the egg whites a little bit to kind of give them a better consistency. I really don't like egg whites all that much. I'd rather have regular eggs, but I bought a bunch of these, so I'm gonna use them. I'm just gonna use this whole carton. I don't know how many servings it is. 10 servings, but a serving is only 3 tablespoons, which I think is 1 egg, so I'm gonna use, it's like 5 eggs. No, 10 eggs. Ignore me. 10 eggs. 10 egg whites. I like to add whole milk yogurt to my egg whites to give them just a little bit of fat to balance out the texture of the egg whites, because they can get a bit dry and I don't like that at all. 1/3 cup that I'll wind up adding here. Depends on your preference. It doesn't really taste like yogurt. I've done this before. You'd think, ew, that's disgusting, but it works out pretty well. I've never used non-fat yogurt though. That might be kind of weird. I'm gonna add some pepper. I haven't seasoned the vegetables yet either, so I'll do that in a minute. Just simple, but add a few things. I'll add some salt into the egg whites. Add a little bit of that same hot thyme from the potatoes. And I like Parmesan cheese in my egg whites. It's like 2 tablespoons probably. And I'm gonna whip it. It looks chunky at first, but I swear it comes back together and doesn't look so gross. So the liquid's kind of starting to come off of the mushrooms. They're getting a little wet in the pan, so I'm going to put a little bit of this spray oil. It's olive oil, but you can use regular if you want. And just stir it around. Get the caramelization from the bottom of the pan onto the mushrooms. And these should only take about 4 or 5 more minutes. Then we're going to add some spinach. These are sun-dried tomatoes, last minute addition. I think it'll taste good with the flavors. I'm gonna stir the potatoes. So they're starting to get a little crispy here. The onions are burning a little bit on the sides, but that always happens. They're not sticking, which is good. And see how roasted the tops are? From the cheese and the paprika. And then some of them will break apart a little bit, but I like that because it kind of gives it that breakfast potato feel. Like it was cooked in a pan, but I'm just lazy. I'm gonna add some water to the pan. A lot of people freak out when you hear water added to veggies or something like that. But it's gonna help cook the spinach and stop everything at the bottom from burning. Basically just steaming it. Probably like almost a half cup that I added. And I'm just gonna put the spinach on the top and let it wilt. I'm crumbling this cheese. It's really dry cheddar, so I can crumble it. If you're using something else, it could be shredded or whatever kind of cheese you like. This is just what I have. So the spinach is wilted a little bit now, so I'm gonna stir it. You can see there's more water in now because the spinach has kind of let off some of its water and those mushrooms are still cooking down. So now I'm gonna turn the heat up and kind of sear off the rest of that water before I add the eggs. So the liquid's dried up. You see the bottom of the pan's pretty dry. I'm going to add a few seasonings to this because we haven't really added anything here. I'm just going to do a little salt because the eggs already have salt and cheese. And then I have this mushroom powder, which just kind of enhances the flavor of the mushrooms already in there. Just a little bit, nothing crazy. And then some pepper. These potatoes are almost done. All of these veggies to one side of the pan and trying to heat down quite a bit on about medium-low right now. I'm actually going to add a little bit of water to this side of the pan just to clean off the bottom of it before I add the eggs so they don't get weird color from the vegetables. I'm adding ghee. You can use butter or oil, whatever you have. I just like ghee. It doesn't burn as quickly as butter. Not that I'm planning to burn this, but ghee is clarified butter, so it has all the milk solids removed. So it has a really high, it has a high smoke point. That's what it is. So it won't burn as quickly as butter will because the milk solids in butter are what burns. That's why it's clear. You don't see any of the little white pieces that you usually see in melted butter. Give these one quick mix before I add them. And then I'll add them all to this side of the pan. Some of the veggies will go in, but that's fine. And then I just scoop around the outside. It's really slow, the cook process of the eggs. At least the way I do it. I find that if you try and cook them too quickly, the liquid will separate out of them, and then you have kind of like tough egg whites and a lot of liquid in the container, especially if you're reheating them. So that's a no-go for me. I'm just gonna let them sit until the outside turns white again, and then I'll scrape around it to kind of get that cooked part from the bottom back into the center of the pan. Potatoes are done. So the whole outside of the eggs now is kind of whiter, and you can see it's kind of got a little structure to it, so we're going to peel that away from the outside and work it back into the center, so there's like a new batch of egg whites to get cooked on the outside basically. See, the whole bottom is cooking. And I don't work with the veggies in until the very end because it changes the whole color of the egg whites and it just looks nicer this way. Easier to cook. They're almost cooked. So when they're like I'd say they're like 80% cooked now. When I'm at 90%, I'm gonna fold all the rest of the ingredients into the eggs. Just want the little liquid bits to kind of cook off first. Some of that might be veggie water too. But it should burn off. Trying to heat up a little bit. Medium high. It's gonna pop. Ah! So all I'm doing now is cooking off this little extra water that's remaining in the bottom of the pan here, so it doesn't make them soggy when they sit in the Tupperware. Because I'll eat this for like 3 days. Probably not ideal after that, but it's good for a few. And microwave's okay too, as long as you cook it slowly, the water doesn't leak out of it too much. And then they're done. I'll just give it a second to melt, give it one more stir, and then turn it off.
Try your masterpiece.
I think it's too hot. It's cheesy, it tastes good. Potato. Egg white scramble with potato home fries. And this has been Megan's Corner. My favorite thing to eat this with is ketchup.